You told this jury that, quote, in 2012, I was in the beginning stages of this, just learning these patterns. I was learning that drinking kind of correlated with the violence, end quote. Is that right?
That is correct.
So it was during these cycles of violence in 2012 that you gave Mr. Depp a knife as a gift.
What? What the fuck?
I gave him a knife, I think for a birthday present early in our relationship. I believe it was around 2012, but I'm not certain.
We've seen a picture of that knife, but I think we should bring out the real thing. Master Deputy Halusa, Master Deputy Sheriff Halusa, may I please have you show the knife to Ms. Heard?
Yes, that's it.
That's the knife you gave to the man who was hitting you, right, Ms. Heard?
I wasn't worried he was going to stab me with it when I gave it to him, that's for certain.
But you gave it to him while he was abusing you, allegedly.
I gave it to him that year.
Master Deputy Sheriff Halusa, will you please show the knife to the jury? Thank you. This is the knife you gave to the man who would get drunk and violent with you, right?
This is the same knife that I gave him as a present in 2012, yes.
What's up with that?
Now, Ms. Heard, I'm going to need to talk to you about what happened in Australia in March of 2015. You've testified that at some point during the incident you described, you witnessed Mr. Depp bashing a phone against a wall, right?
That is correct.
You testified that the phone was breaking into pieces.
I was watching it disappear.
That Mr. Depp smashed it, I think your word was smithereens.
Yes, that is correct.
And according to your testimony, this was a wall-mounted phone in the bar area.
That is correct.
Let's take a look at Defendant's Exhibit 1820. I believe this has already been admitted into evidence, if we could have it published. Thank you. You saw this photo during your direct examination, right?
That is correct.
And you testified that the wall-mounted phone that you saw Mr. Depp smash is on the wall on the left.
That's correct. So if you were looking at this picture, the wall-mounted phone would have been behind you on the left-hand side of your shoulder.
But it's not depicted in this photo, correct?
Whoever took this photo was standing right in front of where that mounted phone was.
That's convenient. The pieces of the phone Mr. Depp smashed aren't in this picture either, right?
You don't see it because it's whoever took this photo standing in front of that.
Whoever took this photo, it's Mr. Ben King, correct?
That's what I believe.
Yeah. Mr. King testified under oath in this trial, right?
That is correct.
And he testified that there was no wall-mounted phone smashed to smithereens that he had to replace, correct?
I didn't hear him testify to that, no.
He did. Your counsel elicited it.
I disagree with that representation.
You also saw this picture. Actually, can we please bring up Defendant's Exhibit 1821, which is also admitted into evidence? You also saw this picture during your direct examination, correct?
That is correct.
And so this is the bar area to the right of the wall-mounted phone you just described.
If you were facing in that direction, if you're facing this direction, it would be behind you.
This phone on the counter isn't the phone that got smashed to smithereens, is it?
No, they brought that out during my testimony in the UK as well, and I said this in the UK trial as well, that is not the phone. Obviously, because that one's not smashed and it's not wall-mounted.
Yeah, so there are two phones in the bar area.
There was a wall-mounted phone. I don't know if it was decorative or what, but it was like it looked antique, large and antique.
And what the large and antique one that's not depicted in any photograph, including ones you took, is the one that Mr. Depp damaged, correct?
That is correct. I only took pictures of the mirrors.
So there's no picture of that damaged phone?
I didn't take a picture of it, no.
Okay. So back to the phone smashing. You watched Mr. Depp smash the phone, right?
That's correct. I watched it.
And you testified that you were, quote, watching the phone every single time he pulled his hand back, end quote.
That's correct.
And according to you, this is when Mr. Depp lost the tip of his finger, right?
It is my best guess. I didn't notice his finger come off, obviously. I was watching him smash the phone and watching the pieces break while he was doing it.
Well, it's not your best guess, Ms. Heard.
That is my best guess, yes.
Okay, let's go back to my questions. You submitted a declaration under the penalty of perjury in this case. Do you remember that?
That is correct.
Okay, let's look at that declaration. And your signature appears right under the statement, quote, I declare under penalty of perjury, under the laws of the state of Virginia, that the foregoing is true and correct.
That is correct.
And this is dated April 10th, 2019.
Correct.
Now let's look at paragraph 16, which is on page 5. Specifically line 10. Quote, you write, testify under oath, while he was smashing the phone, Johnny severely injured his finger, cutting off the top of it, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
So you testified in this courtroom that after Mr. Depp smashed the phone, he held you down on the countertop by the neck. Do you remember that?
I'm not quite sure of the exact sequence of things, but yes, both of those things happened.
We'll get to the sequence. And this is when Mr. Depp supposedly assaulted you with a bottle, right?
On the countertop, he assaulted me.
So Mr. Depp was able to get you on the counter, right?
He held me down by my neck.
And hold you down by your neck.
That is correct.
And he grabbed a bottle, according to you, while holding you down by the neck, correct?
I'm sorry, can you clarify what you're asking me?
While Mr. Depp is holding you by the neck against the countertop, he grabs a bottle. That's your testimony.
No, those two things didn't happen at the exact same time, no.
So he's holding the bottle, is that your testimony?
He
While
was holding
holding you
my-
down by the neck?
Sorry. What was your question?
Your testimony is, Ms. Heard, that either he has the bottle before or after he's holding you by the neck on the counter. Is that your testimony?
He held me by the neck on the counter.
Where's the bottle that he assaulted
At what
with?
point?
While holding you down by your neck.
When he was assaulting me with the bottle, it was in his hand.
Was it in his hand before or after he holds you down by your neck?
I was being held down while he assaulted me with the bottle.
When he puts you on the counter, does he have the bottle in his hand, yes or no?
As I have always said, I don't remember exactly what happened first, or I don't remember the sequence. I just remember being aware that I was being assaulted by a bottle while I was on the countertop.
So he penetrates you with this bottle. But you don't know how he got the bottle, right?
That is correct.
And he did that right after he lost the tip of his right middle finger.
Again, I don't remember the exact sequence of those events.
We'll get to the sequence. And while he was on 8 to 10 MDMA pills, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about the sequence. This is the sequence of events you testified to in this courtroom. That he smashed the phone to smithereens and then assaulted you, lost the tip of his finger, and then assaulted you with a bottle. Yes, that's the sequence of events that you testified to in this courtroom.
To be clear, you're putting it in order when you say words like then. I have never claimed that I can remember the exact sequence of these things. This was a multi-day assault that took place over 3 horrible days.
Ms.
It was
Heard,
the worst thing ever
Ms.
happened
Heard,
to me. I
we're
don't
not
remember
Ms.
the
Heard,
exact
that's
sequence.
not my question. My question isn't about the 3-day assault allegedly that occurred. I'm just talking about the sexual assault that you now allege occurred.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's correct.
Let's talk about the sequence. So you testified, actually. Yeah, I know, I just realized that. And the reason that we need to go through this, Ms. Heard, is because we understand that these are very serious allegations that you're making, right?
It was horrible. What happened to me, yes.
Okay, so let's go through them. Page 4506, line 2 through 3. I sit here now, apologize. You testified on page 4506. This all started when Mr. Depp took 8 or 10 pills of MDMA, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Then, directing your attention to page 4518. Line 19. You talk about Mr. Depp smashing a wall-mounted phone, correct?
That is correct.
Then on page 4519, at line 3, you testified that while Mr. Depp is smashing the phone, he is screaming, quote, "I fucking hate you," end quote, right?
Yes, he was screaming that, among other things.
And further down on page 4519, same page, lines 12 through 19, you talk about how you watched Mr. Depp smash the phone to smithereens, right?
That is correct.
Then, continuing on the same page, 4519, line 20, you say something really important. Quote, "At some point, he's on top of me. No phone, but screaming the same thing," end quote, right?
I just remember the sound, yes.
But you remember, and you testified to this jury, that he didn't have the phone in his hand anymore.
When he was assaulting me with the bottle,
Right.
he had the bottle in his hand. When he was punching the wall with the phone, he had the phone in his hand. When he was punching the wall next to my head, he had me by the throat. He did a lot of things that night.
So you're acknowledging, by this sequence, not my words, your words, Ms. Heard, that you testified to this jury that Mr. Depp smashed the phone to smithereens before he assaulted you. That's the sequencing in which you testified, correct?
I have never testified to a sequence.
Keep talking about that sequence. Then on page 4521, starting at line 3, you testified to being bent over backwards on the bar, right?
Okay.
Directing your attention, Ms. Heard, to page 4521, starting at line 3. You testified to being bent over backwards on the bar, right?
That is correct.
And then feeling pressure on your pubic bone like Mr. Depp was punching you. Yes?
That's what I thought.
And then further down on page 4521 and on to 4522, you testified that you were concerned Mr. Depp was using a broken bottle on you. Yes?
That was my fear.
Okay.
That's what I remember feeling.
Ms. Heard, I'm going to show you Defendant's Exhibit 1816. Which has already been admitted.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You saw this picture during your direct examination, right?
I did.
And you testified that this is a picture of the bottles that were next to Mr. Depp on a desk when you found him drinking in the morning, right?
That's correct.
And this was the morning after Mr. Depp had allegedly sexually assaulted you, right?
It was the morning after he did assault me. Yes.
And if I understood your testimony correctly, you testified that this is the Maker's Mark bottle that Mr. Depp sexually assaulted you with.
I was never sure it was, but it was definitely that shape. Felt like that shape.
But you testified in this courtroom that you had not seen this bottle until Ben King provided these photographs, correct?
And not in the course of the trial, I hadn't seen the photograph.
You claim you had serious injuries after this alleged incident, right, Ms. Heard?
Depends on what you would call serious. For me, having a sore jaw and some bruises at the time of my relationship wasn't that serious.
Okay, let's testify.
Relative.
Let's focus on the testimony that you gave about the injuries. Mr. Depp, as you testified yesterday, wears rings on every finger, right?
Sometimes, often. And certainly in the later part of our relationship, that was more normal than not. But if he's filming or something like that, of course, he's not going to have his own jewelry on.
Your testimony in this trial was, quote, "I don't know if I've ever known Johnny not to wear rings." Correct?
You need to put your microphone on, Miss. Thank you.
Objection, Your Honor. Improper impeachment. If she's going to ask her question, then she has to show where that was and then.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you. Your testimony yesterday was, quote, "I don't know if I've ever known Johnny not to wear rings." Right, Ms. Heard?
That's what I testified to, yes.
Okay. And he was wearing rings on every finger in Australia, correct?
Not all the time, not literally every single ring, every single day, but he often wears rings.
Not often, Ms. Heard. Your words are, "I've never known Johnny not to wear rings on every finger."
That is what I testified to.
Okay. And you testified that you bled as a result of this sexual assault, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And you testified that your forearms were cut
My forearms and my feet.
and your feet were sliced up.
That's correct.
And you testified you had a bruise across your jaw.
That is correct.
And there is not a single medical record reflecting treatment for any of those injuries, is there, Ms. Heard?
I didn't seek treatment.
Sticking with Sunday, when you were interacting with her on that Sunday, how close were you to her?
Very close, like very close in front of her.
And do you recall observing any injuries on Miss Heard?
No, none whatsoever.
Did you notice anything unusual about her physically at all?
No, she was obviously crying a lot. She had red eyes, and but no, otherwise no.
And the day after you sustained all these injuries, Dr. David Kipper came to the house in Australia, right?
Well, he came the third day along with security.
The day after you sustained these injuries, Dr. David Kipper came along with nurse Debbie Lloyd, correct?
Well, that fight went into the morning, like early hour morning, so technically that last day.
Dr. David Kipper is Mr. Depp's, or was Mr. Depp's physician, right?
I believe he still is.
But he
Yes.
was at the time.
Yes, that's correct.
And he was also your physician.
He also saw me.
No, not saw you. He was your physician, correct, Ms. Heard?
Johnny was the client, but he also treated me.
All right, let's please pull up. Do you remember giving testimony in this case in a deposition, Ms. Heard?
Yes, I do. I've given a couple.
If we could please pull up the deposition transcript, day 2. At 589, lines 6 through 8. May I approach?
Yes, ma'am.
And he was your doctor at this point, right?
Yes, he was.
And when you were in Australia, Ms. Heard, you didn't take any pictures of the injuries you claim to have sustained, right?
I did not take any pictures, no.
But you did take 2 pictures.
Of the mirrors. I took 2 pictures of the bathroom mirrors. That was the master bathroom where I was.
Let's please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 374, which is already in evidence. You took this picture, right, Ms. Heard?
Yes, that's correct.
And this is a mirror in the bathroom in Australia.
That's correct.
And this black paint on the mirror is from Mr. Depp.
That is correct.
He wrote on the mirror in black paint after his finger was cut off, right?
Yes, I only know that because there was blood as well as paint.
So you took this picture after Mr. Depp had injured his fingers, correct?
This was while I was packing, when I was leaving.
That's a
when I
yes,
took the
right,
photo.
Ms. Heard?
That's, what's the question? I'm sorry.
You took this picture after Mr. Depp had injured his finger.
That's correct.
And you took this picture after you had allegedly been assaulted by Mr. Depp, yes?
That's correct.
Yet you didn't capture yourself in the mirror, did you?
I don't see myself in the mirror, no.
Let's please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 375. You took this picture as well, right, Ms. Heard?
That's correct.
And this is from one of the bathroom mirrors in Australia?
That's correct.
This is also a picture taken after Mr. Depp had injured his finger.
That's correct.
And this is also a picture taken after you had allegedly been assaulted by Mr. Depp.
That's correct.
You didn't capture yourself in the mirror in this picture either, did you?
I do not see myself in the mirror in that picture.
Is that because you didn't have any visible injuries on you?
It's because I was taking a picture of the writing.
Let's talk about the writing on this mirror. So the writing in black paint is from Mr. Depp, correct?
It's all from Mr. Depp.
And it's your testimony under oath that you did not write the red text that says, quote, "Call Carly Simon, she said it better, babe," end quote.
That's correct.
I'm a dumbass. I'm a dumbass. I'm a
Because if you did write that, it means that your husband was walking around the house bleeding from his amputated finger, and you're writing snarky messages to him on a mirror, right?
And
I don't know what your question to me is. I'm sorry.
Let's please take a look at Defendant's Exhibit 1830. And I believe this picture is also admitted into evidence.
That's correct.
This is a picture of the same mirror, right?
That's correct.
But you didn't take this picture.
No, I did not.
This is the one that Ben King took.
And I don't see him in the mirror either.
I don't believe he claimed he had injuries, though. Is that right?
I did not hear Ben King talk about his injuries, no.
Okay. So you would agree, Ms. Heard, that the black text on the mirror says, quote, "She loves naked photos of herself. So modern, so hot."
I had not read that yet. I mean, before, but yeah, that's what it says.
But you were taking pictures of the text, but you had not read that before?
I haven't seen this. It didn't make sense to me at the time when I read it in person.
Okay. Again, Mr. Depp wrote that.
I don't know who else would have.
So, Ms. Heard, just to be clear, it's your testimony that Mr. Depp also wrote the message in red about Carly Simon saying it better, right?
That's correct.
You know Carly Simon sang the song "You're So Vain," right?
I was told that.
You're so vain. You probably think this song is about you.
So it's your testimony that Mr. Depp was writing messages to himself in the mirror back and forth.
The best I can describe it is it looked like a crazy conversation. It was on the walls, it was
With
on
himself.
lampshades, it was on cushions.
It's your testimony the crazy conversation was with himself.
That's what it looked like from the bloody messages I found.
And you would agree with me that in this photograph, the red text has been smudged with black paint, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's please pull up, if we can, Defendant's Exhibit 375 again. The black smudge isn't in this picture that you took, right?
That's correct.
So Mr. Depp must have not liked his own message to himself.
I'm not quite sure what was happening when Ben took that his photograph, no.
It's not to get you mad. It's just to get out of a bad situation while it's happening before it gets worse. In Australia, when we had the big fight where I lost the tip of my finger, at least 5 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms I went to
avoid talking to me, to avoid
escape
working it out.
to
That's the
escape
problem.
the fight.
You don't escape the fight. You escape the solution.
No.
You escape the solution.
No.
You escape figuring it out. We cannot work it out if you run away to the bathroom every time.
Listen to me. Listen to me. A boxer can't go 12 rounds without a fucking minute break.
I'm not giving you a minute break. You do it at minute 3 at the beginning of an argument.
No. There are rounds, man. And when it gets too fucking hairy, the ref splits them apart or whatever. But all I'm saying is, you can't have a solution if the argument just keeps mounting and mounting and mounting and mounting. I fucking go into the bathroom and sit on the floor. Bam, 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 here you come. I come out. Fight, crazy, escalated. I go split again, I go to another fucking bathroom or a bedroom or something. Knock, 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 bang, bang, bang. You kept coming to get me.
Every
This is what really happened in Australia, isn't it, Miss Heard?
I did knock on a bathroom door on the first night.
Not a bathroom door, 5 bathroom doors, and 2 bedrooms. Isn't
Johnny
that
is
right?
not an accurate historian of what happened during
Ms. Heard,
that
Ms.
period
Heard,
of time. I'll guarantee
Ms.
you
Heard,
that.
that's not my question. 5 bathroom doors, 2 bedrooms. That's what you knocked on.
I
That's
was
what
there.
actually happened in Australia, isn't it, Ms. Heard?
I was there.
So that's a
I
no?
remember it. I knocked on one bathroom door. I came on the first night after he decided to take the bag of MDMA.
Ms.
And I
Heard,
went to check
Ms.
on
Heard,
him and see
I'm going to
if we
move to
could-
strike everything after I knocked on one bathroom
She
door.
can't do that. She's answering the question.
Not quite, so I will sustain the objection. Just answer the question, okay, ma'am?
The recording we just listened to, that's exactly what happened in Australia. Mr. Depp lost the tip of his finger after you threw a bottle at him. Isn't that right?
That is incorrect.
You're the one who assaulted someone with a bottle in Australia. Isn't that right, Ms. Heard?
I didn't assault Johnny in Australia. I didn't assault Johnny ever.
I did not punch you. I did not deck you.
That is Amber yelling at Johnny, the verbal altercation after a physical one between the two.
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. You're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you. How are you? What am I supposed to do? Do this? I'm not sitting here about it, am I? You are. That's the difference between me and you. You're a baby.
I couldn't.
And then after he was injured, he had to hide from you, right?
That is
In
incorrect.
5 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms.
That is incorrect.
And you would pursue him
That is incorrect.
because he was avoiding talking to you, right?
He did that first night when
he was
I tried to
avoiding-
talk to him about the drugs.
And he was avoiding working it out.
No, he was avoiding agreeing to not fight about the drugs.
That doesn't make no sense.
You weren't scared of him at all, were you?
I have a mixed relationship with Johnny, and one in which I'm scared, one in which I love him very much.
I'm not talking about your mixed relationship. That night in Australia, after you cut off his finger with a bottle, you weren't scared of him at all, were you?
This is a man who tried to kill me. Of course it's scary. He's also my husband.
Holy crap.
So you write, Ms. Heard, to Dr. Cowan, I feel so lost. I can't talk. I don't know if I'll ever be able to change. Right?
And I said I clearly can't figure this out, meaning the relationship.
You didn't say that. You said,
I did.
Not the relationship. Your text messages. Clearly, I can't figure this out. I feel so lost right now.
What I was saying to him
No,
is
Ms.
clearly I
Heard,
can't
Ms.
figure
Heard,
this
Ms.
out
Heard,
as in
that's
the
not my question.
relationship.
The text. Just the text.
That's exactly what I was saying.
What you texted. Clearly, I can't figure this out. I feel so lost right now.
That's what
right.
I was saying.
Okay. Ms. Heard, you contend that there's another incident of abuse in March of 2015 after you and Mr. Depp returned from Australia. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this incident took place on March 23rd, 2015?
That's correct.
And this supposedly occurred in the penthouse at the Eastern Columbia building?
That's correct.
You had found text messages between Mr. Depp and another woman, right?
That is correct.
So you confronted him about cheating on you.
That's correct.
And this was about 2 weeks after you had returned from Australia.
That's correct.
So this is shortly after Mr. Depp supposedly sexually assaulted you with a bottle, right?
It was 2 weeks after he assaulted me, yes.
And you decided to confront him about cheating on you?
I didn't decide to. I wanted to.
Mr. Depp's finger was freshly injured at this point, right?
He had a cast on it.
The top of his right finger had been cut off 2 weeks prior.
That is correct.
And he had a pin in his finger, true?
I don't recall when the pen was placed.
A skin graft?
I'm not quite sure. He had several different procedures and they were kind of spread out over a period of time, so I don't remember what happened and when
One of those
exactly.
procedures was to treat the MRSA that got on his finger too, right?
At some point, I knew he had an infection.
And his right hand was in a bandage, right?
It was casted.
So it's your testimony that Mr. Depp was able to attack both you and your sister with his hand in that state, right?
That is correct. He had a hard plaster cast on it.
Debbie Lloyd was present in the penthouses when Mr. Depp supposedly attacked you. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
In fact, you claim that Mr. Depp threw a Red Bull can at Miss Lloyd that evening.
Yes, that's correct.
And you put in a sworn statement to that effect in the UK case, right?
That is correct.
But that's not true, is it?
That's what happened.
You know what a deposition is, right, Ms. Heard?
I've had several, yes.
Yeah, so you know it's when someone provides testimony under oath.
That is correct.
You're aware that Miss Lloyd was deposed in connection with this case, correct?
That is true.
And Miss Lloyd's deposition testimony was played earlier in this trial, right?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. May we approach?
All right.
You know it's when someone provides testimony under oath, right?
That's correct.
And you're aware that Miss Lloyd was deposed in connection with this case.
That's correct.
And Miss Lloyd's deposition testimony was played earlier in this trial.
Yes.
So you heard Miss Lloyd testify under oath that Mr. Depp never threw a can of Red Bull at her.
I can't remember if she didn't recall that or if she said it didn't happen. I don't remember. I vaguely sense she didn't recall anything.
So it's your testimony that Miss Lloyd would forget that Mr. Depp, a very famous patient of hers, threw a can of Red Bull that nearly missed her, according to your version of events?
To be fair, I just don't remember if she said when she testified that she didn't recall that incident or if it didn't happen. I don't remember what she testified to. But I have a vague sense that she didn't recall much at all.
She recalled, and she testified in this courtroom, that Mr. Depp never threw a can of Red Bull at her. That was her testimony, wasn't it?
I don't recall what her testimony was with regards to that one incident, no.
You actually filed a complaint against Miss Lloyd's nursing license right before she was supposedly deposed in this case, didn't you?
No, I don't believe I did.
Are you aware that someone filed a complaint against Miss Lloyd's nursing license in connection with her care of Mr. Depp for failing to report abuse?
No, I had no idea. You're the first person to let me know about that.
It's your testimony under oath, that wasn't you?
That is my testimony. I didn't even know about that until now.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Travis McGivern was also present when Mr. Depp supposedly attacked you, correct?
He walked in at some point.
And you heard his testimony that it was actually you who punched Mr. Depp. Isn't that right?
It's always been my own testimony that I hit Johnny.
And you who was throwing things at Mr. Depp.
I hit him in defense of my sister. I didn't have anything to throw at him. I never threw anything at him. I hit him when he attacked me and my sister. Specifically when he moved for her. That's when I hit him.
So it's your testimony under oath. You threw nothing at Mr. Depp. Mr. McGivern's lying.
I have thrown things at Johnny,
No,
to be clear, but not that
thrown things
occasion.
that evening.
Not on that occasion.
So it's your testimony, Mr. McGivern imagined that you were throwing things at Mr. Depp from the mezzanine level down towards where Mr. Depp and Mr. McGivern were standing.
Well, he certainly wasn't going to say it about his client.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's your testimony, Ms. Heard, that you were wearing makeup for this photo shoot?
That is correct. It's a photo shoot.
If we could please pull up Exhibit 102. Ms. Heard, is this another picture from the photo shoot?
I can't exactly tell from the background. It looks like the same thing, but I can't really tell without it being zoomed out.
This is a picture of you, though, right?
It is a picture of me, yes.
I'm going to move to admit and publish.
All right, any objection?
I'm not going to object because she identified herself. I just, if she could identify when it was taken, that would help. But I'm not going to object. I'm not
No,
gonna object.
no objection.
No objection.
Okay, there we go. 102 in evidence. You publish.
Let's please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 103.
03.
Ms. Hurd, this is yet another picture of you from that Greg Williams photo shoot, correct?
That is correct. This is from the same shoot.
I'm going to move to admit and publish.
No objection.
All right, 103 in evidence. Publish.
And again, if we could zoom in on Ms. Hurd's face. And finally, if we could please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 104. And Ms. Hurd, this is a picture of you from that photo shoot, correct?
Again, this is the same photo shoot weeks later.
I'm going to move to admit and publish.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 104 in evidence. Thank you.
Again, if we could zoom in on Ms. Hurd's face. Thank you, Tom. You testified that you and Mr. Depp got into a fight while on the island in December of 2015, correct?
That's correct.
And this all started because you perceived Mr. Depp as nodding off during the trip, right?
I thought he was passing out again in a similar fashion to what he had done the previous year.
And when he nodded off, he spilled wine on you, correct?
Yeah, 2-3 times in a row.
You testified that Mr. Depp's son, Jack, was there when this happened, right?
At the beginning, he was there.
He was there when Mr. Depp allegedly spilled wine on you 2 or 3 times, right?
He was there for that because he offered me help.
Right. You also testified that Mr. Depp then sexually assaulted you in the bathroom, correct?
That's correct.
And you testified that after this, you needed to get away from him, right?
That is correct.
So you ran out of the house.
That's correct.
And you admit you threw something at him, right?
I did throw something at him to get away.
You sat in this courtroom when Tara Roberts testified, right, Ms. Hurd?
I did.
She's Mr. Depp's manager on the island.
Yes, that's correct.
You heard her testify that she witnessed an argument between you and Mr. Depp on the island in December of 2015, right?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
And you heard her testify that Mr. Depp was trying to escape you, right?
I don't know if she characterized it like that, but that was the gist of it. She kind of misrepresented it to seem like that, yes.
She misrepresented it. How convenient.
That's correct.
Okay, and then you kept apologizing to Mr. Depp, right? That's what
No, that's
Ms.
not
Roberts
correct.
said? Begging him to come back to the house with you.
That's not correct.
Clawing at him. She used those words.
That's not correct. When she interrupted us, Johnny had me by the hair.
Yelling at him.
We were screaming, both of us, but I don't know what she would have heard.
And that she observed an injury on Mr. Depp's nose from something that you threw at him, right?
I don't know what she observed.
You also heard Ms. Roberts testify that she included all this information in a sworn statement in the UK in May of 2020. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
You put in a witness statement in response to Ms. Roberts' statement in June of 2020. Isn't that correct? In the UK?
I did several, I think 7 witness statements, and each one contained different information as per recent filings. That's what counsel has you do in that.
And in response to
case.
previous filings, correct? Including testimony from people that contradict your story?
Sort of. So what you have to do is your counsel asks you to respond to things and you put it in a declaration of sorts, and that happens back and forth over the course of preparing to go to trial in that country. And that's what I did.
So that was your 5th witness statement submitted in the UK.
I don't recall which one I was asked to comment on Tara Roberts' testimony.
I'll remind you. If we could have Ms. Hurd's 5th witness statement from the UK. You describe Mr. Depp sexually assaulting you in the Bahamas of December 2015, right?
That is correct.
And that's the first time you ever claimed that Mr. Depp had sexually assaulted you in the Bahamas.
That is incorrect.
You only submitted the confidential schedule in the UK claiming Mr. Depp had sexually assaulted you after Miss Roberts had said that she saw you on the island chasing, clawing at Mr. Depp. Isn't that correct?
That is incorrect.
I say when I say I'm going to try and change X, Y, and Z thing or work on blah, 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 I can only do those things. And since I have been doing the same,
What things have you been doing?
working on this thing, not doing certain things, trying to change as last several times.
Hence, screaming when I spilt wine accidentally on you for falling asleep, and screaming in front of my kids and freaking Jack out. And that's trying.
I would appreciate. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Johnny.
That fucked him up, you know.
I'm sorry I fucked your son up.
No, it weirded him out. It never.
I'm so sorry I fucked your kids up.
Didn't fuck my kids up, but it was pretty fucking weird for him, you know.
Because I jumped up and screamed at everyone. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm really surprised, Jason. So you're going for the counselor. I'm sure that's terrifying.
I don't need your
No, right. Poor kid.
your clever
Son against me again.
comebacks.
It's so-
No.
Your-
You think
your
you're controlling
your
yourself?
character
You
is-
think you're controlling
Your
yourself?
character has become so clear, especially when you use them. It's embarrassing for you. I'm gonna walk away now because you're actually making me see you even worse. And believe me, I'm not gonna be calling you at 3 o'clock in the morning after I've had an Ambien and think, I'm gonna just fucking forgive and move on. Trust me, it is gross how you're using the kids. I've done nothing but be there for them in a good way. And if you take that for granted, fine. Fine. You're right. Meet a woman who would not jump up and scream if she had things spilled on 3 times in a row. And I hope you're happy with whoever that is. Because that would be a special kind of fucking person. No doubt.
It's you and Mr. Depp in that recording, right?
That's correct.
And you're discussing what happened in the Bahamas in December of 2015, right?
No, that's not correct. We were discussing a part of it.
You're discussing when you screamed at Mr. Depp in front of his children, correct?
No, we were talking about a part of that argument.
Because it's not convenient for you?
Including when you screamed at Mr. Depp in front of his children.
That's not a fair characterization of what happened.
Mr. Depp says you screamed at him when he accidentally spilled wine on you, correct?
I realize that's what Johnny said.
Yeah. And Mr. Depp tells you that this freaked out his son, Jack.
Johnny often used other people to back him up in our arguments.
You don't seem too concerned about that, do you?
I had a lot of concerns.
You don't mention Mr. Depp sexually assaulting you in this recording, do you?
That was not the point of that conversation. If I had gotten into the details of what happened to me with him, it would have been another fight.
You just accused Mr. Depp of, quote, using his kids, right? In that recording.
He would often use other people, yes.
And you challenge him to find a woman who will not, quote, jump up and scream if she has been spilled on 3 times in a row.
That is correct.
Not a woman who would put up with sexual abuse, right?
I was pointing out the ridiculous nature of him expecting me not to react to something that basic.